This episode was written by the Gravelstone. If you like the content here in this video, go ahead and check out his Instagram for mini album reviews that you may like. I just wanted to say for episode 30, thank you for all your continued support, for pushing me and pointing out my mistakes so far, such as in the J Dilla and Earl videos. Positive or negative comments are always welcome, and keep correcting me so that I can learn to be better or recheck my research. When discussing Taboo by Denzel Curry, knowing the environment around the project's creation is just as important as knowing the music itself. The album, believe it or not, was created during a serious point of struggle for Denzel. As he said in an interview with Hot New Hip Hop, I was in such a dark place, dealing with issues with relationships, dealing with living situations, how my career was going, dealing with family issues. All of that spawned into one thing. The one thing Denzel is referring to here is, of course, Taboo. The album sees Denzel on an introspective journey where he discusses his hopes, fears, and the vices he struggles with. The album is divided into 3 separate acts: the light side, the grey side, and the dark side. These acts show the progression of Denzel's mental state as he falls deeper and deeper into depression and violence. Another critical piece to understanding Taboo's narrative is breaking down the characters Denzel presents throughout the record, of which there are 2. The first is Denny Cascade, who Denzel shows to be a light and indulgent version of himself. Denny is presented throughout the light and grey portions of the album and slowly transforms into the second character, the black metal terrorist. This is a dark and violent version of Denzel, fueled by the hatred he feels for those who have wronged him. The album serves to detail the real-world experiences that led Denzel to become this dark character. The opening track of the album wastes no time establishing the themes of the project, beginning with Denzel welcoming the listener to the darker side of Taboo. This line references the true nature of Taboo's light side. With the first 4 tracks of the record, Denzel will explore the trappings of his success. He believes these to be the true darkest events of the album, since they served as the point where he first fell into the pitfalls of fame. This is reflected in the hook where Denzel says, "All I got is permanent scars and tattoos. Take another step in the path that you choose. Make a bad choice in your path, then you lose." The hook reveals that the version of Denzel seen here is actually the one from the end of the album, who already bears the marks of tribulations yet to be seen. This sets up the following verses where Denzel introduces the listeners to the character of Taboo, a representation of himself before he fell victim to his fame. Taboo is presented as an innocent, smart and imaginative girl who Denzel falls in love with. The girl was a victim of abuse at a young age and won't open up to anyone, keeping her trauma locked away. Denzel experienced the same type of abuse as Taboo early in life, and her story mirrors how he hides his own pain. Throughout the course of the song, it is revealed that Denzel fails at comforting Taboo and only loves her sexually, despite desiring an intimate connection. This shows that at the end of the album, Denzel will have transformed into a character not only incapable of relating to other people, but also incapable of relating to who he was before his transformation. He then says that he will eternally wait for Taboo. This line shows what will become Denzel's desire at the album's conclusion, relating to the innocent version of himself that he lost. He ends the verse saying, "Watching your destiny fold in the grip of my pain, paper planes being thrown on the side of the lawn," it said, followed by a reprisal of the hook. These lyrics show that the destiny of innocent Denzel is to transform into the narrator, welcoming the listener to the darker side of Taboo. This song serves to set up not only what Denzel will become at the end of the album, but also who he is at the project's beginning. After setting up his character on Taboo, Denzel begins his narrative journey. He opens Black Balloons by showing the listener that he has switched to the innocent character from the previous song who mirrored Taboo. He references Taboo and himself being in the same boat, showing that the 2 characters are representatives of each other and will meet the same fate. Throughout Black Balloons, Denzel talks about how the suppression of trauma in his life is leading him to negative thoughts. He compares these traumas to black balloons over his head that will soon pop. However, he lets these negative thoughts float by him, attempting to brush them off as nothing. While doing this in the moment allows Denzel an escape from his pain, bottling up all these emotions will eventually lead to disaster. Goldlink's verse helps to reinforce the messages Denzel presents about pushing aside serious issues instead of confronting them. Goldlink raps about how fans have turned on him even though his music spreads positive messages and even saves the lives of troubled youths. However, Goldlink doesn't attempt to confront those who speak negatively on his music, instead he brushes them off to avoid confrontation. Like Goldlink, many wish to avoid conflict, but this can lead to problems later on. As said by the conflict dynamics profile, in the short term they may feel relieved because they do not have to face the other person. However, people often admit that this usually does not solve their problem. Tensions simmer and eventually the problem comes back, often with a vengeance. Black Balloons shows how Denzel, in the early state of his fame, is having trouble dealing with the stress of his newfound position and chooses to block them out. The suppression of these stresses will lead to a point where Denzel is confronted by all of them at once, where the black balloons finally pop. After a short outro at the end of Black Balloons showing the chaos of Denzel's life, the next song, Maniac, begins. The production of the track is lush and overwhelming, matching the themes of excess presented on the song. While an abrupt rise to fame led to many new issues for Denzel, it also provided him with ample amounts of money, and throughout Maniac he explores how he uses his wealth to keep himself positive. However, the song's title reveals the true darkness of Denzel's situation. His access to wealth isn't really helping him to deal with his new issues or past traumas. Instead, it creates dependency within Denzel, where he has to save money and have money in order to drown out the struggles of life. Spending is the only way he can get the black balloons over his head to float on by. The song sees Denzel rapping from the perspective of a true cash maniac, bragging about his wealth, dissing his haters, and talking about how bright he believes his future will be. However, the truth of the song is presented in a line where Denzel says, "Balance is my chai, so I could tame the savage." In Taoism, chi is how alert or alive someone is. While the way to a balanced chi can easily be misinterpreted as an energetic and vibrant lifestyle like the one Denzel is living on Maniac, it is only through the pursuit of inner peace and tranquility that a balanced chi can be achieved. Throughout Maniac, Denzel is filled with false beliefs like this because his judgment is clouded by the success he's had. The false pride Denzel feels is reflected within the lyrics, which use a playful delivery that shows how Denzel is blissfully ignoring the situation he's actually in. This ignorance will lead to Denzel flaunting his wealth, which will attract the attention of many of those who envy his position. The track Sumo is a continuation of the story seen on Maniac and paints a picture of how having money and being forced to defend it can lead to some violence and paranoia. This mindset is personified on the hook, which mirrors traditional brag rap, and sees Denzel threatening his enemies who, as we will discover later, are those who wish to take his money and power. Denzel also compares the size of his pockets to a sumo wrestler. While this shows the listener that Denzel has a lot of money, it also references how Denzel's wealth makes him a target. By showing off his money so openly, Denzel is surely drawing attention to himself and parts of himself that he does not want to reveal to others. This is shown in the verse of the song where Denzel asks why people look at him with anger just because he has money, and says that they try to stop his rise to fame because of jealousy. It's also apparent that having wealth has put Denzel into a more violent state, seen in how he threatens those who attempted to take his money with death. Sumo sees Denzel having to confront issues within his life seriously for the first time on the album, as seen in his rage-filled response. When Denzel is forced to come to terms with these negative forces, he responds with anger and hostility. This leads nicely into the grey and dark sides of the album, where Denzel will confront his problems and then respond to them in ways just as violent as the ones seen here. So overall, on the song Taboo as well, Denzel said that the light side of the album was actually the darkest, and there is definitely truth to that statement. The first act sees Denzel helplessly falling into darkness without anyone to pull him out of it. He chooses to drown out his trauma and issues using money. but his excessive lifestyle only creates more problems, adding to the ever-growing black balloon over his head, and will soon be too large to simply push away.